You thought no one would ever find out. Wrong.
I saw her car outside a cheap motel. My heart sank. I waited. Minutes felt like hours. Then I saw them walk out together, laughing. That moment shattered everything I thought I knew. Yeah, that was the exact sentence running through my head, like a headline I couldn't turn off. The red Honda Civic with the dented bumper was definitely hers. Madison always swore she hated trashy places, but there it was, parked crooked under a flickering neon sign that said vacancy, buzzing like a bad omen. I killed the engine 2 blocks away and walked the rest, hands shoved in my hoodie, pretending I was just some guy out for a smoke. My name's Ethan, by the way. 34, project manager, boringly dependable. At least that's how my wife liked to introduce me. This is Ethan, she'd say at parties, flashing that perfect smile. He keeps my life organized. I used to be proud of that. Tonight it felt like a joke. The motel smelled like stale cigarettes and spilled beer. The parking lot lights threw long, ugly shadows over cracked asphalt. Madison's car sat at the far corner, next to a black Dodge Charger that looked like it had something to prove. I leaned against a street lamp, pretending to scroll my phone, heart pounding so loud I was sure someone would hear it. There was no real reason for me to be here. That's what I kept telling myself. Sure, Madison had been distant. More makeup, more girls' nights, more quick screen flips every time I walked into the room. But I'd come here because of a feeling, not proof. Because of one stupid notification that popped up on her smartwatch while she was in the shower. Can't wait to see you tonight, smiling face with Hornstein. I told myself T could be Tiffany, Tanya, anybody. I told myself a lot of things. Time dragged. The chill crept through my jacket and into my bones, but I stayed. My brain started bargaining. If she comes out alone, you leave. You never tell her you were here. You just go home, pretend this never happened, and keep being the safe, predictable husband she tolerates. Then the door to room 23 opened. First I saw his arm, tanned, veiny, a bold watch winking under the yellow hallway light. Then his voice, low and cocky, floated across the lot. A second later, Madison followed him out, head thrown back, laughing like she hadn't laughed around me in months. She slapped his chest playfully, and he grabbed her waist like he already owned her. I went cold. Not angry yet, just hollow, like someone had reached inside my chest and unplugged something essential. She was wearing the black dress I bought her for our anniversary. The one she'd said was too much for dinners with me. With him, apparently, it was just right. Her hair was styled in loose waves, her lips that deep red she used when she wanted attention. And he looked like every gym-addicted, overconfident jerk you try not to be threatened by. Broad shoulders, tight t-shirt, the kind of smirk you want to wipe off with your fist. Come on, Tyler, she said, tugging his sleeve. Tyler. So that was T, not Tiffany, not Tanya. Tyler. They couldn't see me. I watched them lean into each other, share a quick, heated kiss, then break apart laughing again, like what they were doing was some inside joke and the world existed just to applaud them. Madison tossed her hair, eyes lit up in a way I hadn't seen since, honestly, I couldn't remember. I should have walked away right then. Any sane person would have. But sanity wasn't really on the menu anymore. Instead, I stepped out from the shadow. Madison. Her name came out quieter than I expected, but she heard it. They both did. Madison froze mid-laugh, the sound dying in her throat like a bird hitting glass. Tyler's hand slipped from her waist. He turned slowly, assessing me like I was a parking ticket, not a human being watching his marriage bleed out on the pavement. For a heartbeat, nobody moved. The neon sign bust. A car passed on the highway, distant and uncaring. Then Madison did what she always did best. She acted. Ethan. She widened her eyes, dragging in a sharp, fake gasp. What are you doing here? Her voice shot up an octave, dripping with offended innocence, like I was the one standing outside a motel with someone else's spouse. What am I doing here? I repeated, my own voice shaking. I could ask you the same thing. She blinked rapidly, already calculating. I could see the gears turning behind her eyes. Madison never wasted time on guilt. She went straight to damage control. This is what it looks like, she snapped, crossing her arms. That line. The classic line. I almost laughed. Tyler shifted his weight, clearly uncomfortable with the idea of a real husband existing. Maybe we should take this inside, he said low and smooth. No need to make a scene, man. I looked at him, then back at her. A scene? My wife sneaks off to a motel with some random guy, and I'm the one making a scene? Madison rolled her eyes, actually rolled her eyes. Oh my God, Ethan, stop being dramatic. It's not like that. Really. I pointed at the room they just left. Then explained it to me. Because from where I'm standing, it looks exactly like that. Her expression hardened. The sweet, innocent mask slipped, and underneath it was the Madison I'd only seen in flashes. The one who could slice you apart with a single sentence when she didn't get her way. You're paranoid, she hissed. You've been paranoid for months. Tyler is just a friend from work. We had a meeting, that's all. At a motel, I said flatly. At 9:30 at night. In the dress you never wear. She shrugged, lips twisting. Not my fault you don't understand how real business works. Tyler stayed quiet, but the corner of his mouth curled, like he was enjoying the show. Something in me snapped then, not with shouting or theatrics, but with a cold, terrifying clarity. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a one-time mistake with tears and apologies. This was planned. Casual. Routine, maybe. And she still thought she could talk her way out of it, like I was some clueless idiot she could keep on a leash. For the first time since I'd known her, I realized Madison wasn't just careless. She was cruel. I took a step closer, close enough to smell her perfume, vanilla, and something sharp underneath. Tell me the truth, I said quietly. Just once. No more stories. Who is he to you? She stared at me, unblinking. Then, with a little smirk that made my stomach twist, she said, he's someone who makes me feel alive, Ethan. Something you stopped doing a long time ago. And right there, in that grimy parking lot, under cheap neon and a sky that suddenly felt way too big, I understood. This night was not an accident. It was the start of a war. When she said, he's someone who makes me feel alive, Ethan, it didn't just hurt, it rewrote history in an instant. Suddenly, every birthday, every late night drive, every stupid inside joke we'd ever shared felt like a setup to this moment in a motel parking lot, where my wife stood in another man's shadow and talked about being alive like I kept her half dead. Tyler chuckled under his breath. That little sound lit something in me. You think this is funny? I asked him. He lifted his hands, all fake calm. Hey man, don't make this about me. Your marriage clearly had problems before I showed up. Madison nodded like some smug judge agreeing with the witness. He's right. You've been clinging for months, Ethan. You're always checking in, always asking where I am, who I'm with. It's exhausting. My jaw clenched. I started checking when things stopped adding up. A door opened a few rooms down. Some guy in sweatpants stepped out, took one look at us, then ducked back inside. The motel manager peeked through the front window, decided this drama wasn't worth minimum wage, and disappeared. Go home, Madison said, like she was dismissing a waiter. We'll talk about this when you calm down. Calm down. The words fizzed in my ears like acid. You think you get a schedule when I react to you cheating on me? I asked. My hands were shaking, but my voice had gone weirdly steady. You sneak off with him, you lie to my face, you use our anniversary dress, and now you want me to reschedule my breakdown? Tyler stepped slightly in front of her, huffing himself up. Look, I don't know what you thought your marriage was, but she doesn't know you her whole life. I stared at him, then at her, and a small, bitter laugh slipped out. That's cute. Did you rehearse this in a room, or are you improvising? Madison narrowed her eyes. There it is. That's sarcasm. That's exactly what I mean. You're always undermining me. Undermining you. I repeated. You're at a motel with your coworker, and somehow I'm the problem? She folded her arms again, like she was tired of this. Tired of me. You were never enough for me, Ethan. I just didn't want to hurt your feelings. But lately you've been so clingy. It's like you're forcing me to lie. That line, you're forcing me to lie, hit different. She didn't see anything wrong with what she'd done. In her head, cheating wasn't the betrayal. My reaction was, Tyler wrapped an arm around her casually, like this was settled. Come on, Mads. Let's go. Mess. Like she was a song, not a person. She didn't pull away. There was the choice. It wasn't subtle, and it wasn't accidental. She chose him. Something inside me quietly folded in on itself. Okay, I said, nodding slowly. Got it. I stepped back. No jitting. No vaguing. No dramatic scenes. Just distance. Madison frowned, confused that I wasn't giving her the argument she'd prepped for. What does okay mean? It means I finally see you, I said. Really see you. Not the version I've been protecting in my head. For a second, something flickered in her eyes. Guilt, maybe, but it vanished quickly. You're being overdramatic again. I turned away before she could say anything else that I'd replay in my head at 3 in the morning. As I walked toward my car, Tyler called after me. Get home safe, man. I didn't even look back. If I did, I wasn't sure if I'd walk away or swing. The drive home was a blur of headlights and hollow breathing. My phone buzzed once. Madison's name on the screen. I let it ring out. A few seconds later, a message popped up. You embarrass me tonight. We'll talk when you're rational. Rational. I almost threw the phone out the window. Instead, I gripped the wheel harder and forced myself to focus on the road. The night outside smeared into streaks of light, like someone had taken a wet brush and dragged it across the world. As I drove, everything started rewinding in my head. The smartwatch notification, the sudden overtime, the way she'd started guarding her phone like it was a second spine. The first crack had appeared 3 weeks earlier. She'd left her smartwatch on the bathroom counter while she showered. It buzzed once. I glanced at it without thinking. The screen lit up with a preview. T. Can't wait to see you tonight, smiling face with horns. I remember staring at that emoji like it was some ancient symbol I needed to decode. My brain tried to explain it away. Probably Tiffany from the office. Or some group chat joke. Madison had always had a lot of friends, a lot of chats, a lot of inside stuff. I wasn't supposed to question. But when she stepped out of the shower and saw where my eyes had been, her reaction wasn't casual. She snatched the watch up like it was made of glass and snapped. Don't snoop, Ethan. That's creepy. Who's T? I'd asked, trying to keep my voice light. She'd rolled her eyes. A colleague. We're planning a campaign. Stop being nosy. I wanted to let it go. To be the trusting husband. But that night, she came home late, smelling like cologne that wasn't mine. Said the campaign ran long. Said she forgot to text. Said my face looked accusing, and it turned her off. One missed call turned into 5. One late night turned into every other night. One work dinner turned into weekends with the girls, where no girl ever posted a single photo. I noticed. I kept noticing. But every time I gently pushed, she pushed back twice as hard. With sarcasm, with insults, with accusations that I was insecure, childish, controlling. Eventually, you start thinking maybe you were crazy. Until you're standing in a motel parking lot, watching your wife walk out laughing with a man named Tyler. And suddenly the world aligns in the worst possible way. By the time I pulled into our driveway, the house didn't look like home anymore. It looked like a crime scene where the body hadn't been found yet. I sat there in the dark, engine off, listening to the ticking metal in my own heartbeat. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The discovery was only the beginning. Sleep didn't visit that night. I didn't even try to lie down. I paced the living room instead, the shadows of picture frames watching me like silent jurors. There was one photo, Madison and me on the pier, her arms around my neck, sunlight turning her hair into gold. She looked happy. I looked oblivious. The kind of stupid grin only a man with misplaced trust can wear. By 3 a.m., something inside me snapped into alignment. If she wanted a war, she'd get one. Around 6, I heard her key in the lock. She walked in humming, as if coming home at dawn dressed like a nightclub villain was perfectly normal. Her heels clicked against the hardwood floor, and she tossed her purse on the couch like she owned gravity. Oh good, you're awake, she said, not even surprised. We need to talk about last night. You were out of line. I stared at her. Out of line. The words pulsed like a migraine. She was still in the black dress from the motel, though now it looked stretched at the seams, like it had hosted a performance it wasn't designed for. Her lipstick had faded into a blurred stain, and her hair was a mess she didn't bother to fix. She looked like a woman who had nothing to hide because she believed she could spin any lie into silk. Sit down, she ordered, pointing at the couch. I didn't move. Her eyes narrowed. She hated when I didn't follow her script. Madison needed control like lungs needed air. You made a scene last night, she began, crossing her arms. You embarrassed me in front of someone who's been supportive and understanding during a very difficult time. I let that hang there. Tyler, he's your emotional support now. Don't reduce it like that, she snapped. He listens. He actually hears me, right? The motel walls probably heard her too. What exactly did he help you with? I asked. Brainstorming business strategies? Practicing trust falls? Testing mattress durability? Her nostrils flared. This is why we have problems, Ethan. You joke about everything. Nothing is ever serious to you. You dragged our marriage into a motel room, I said evenly. That seems pretty serious. She exhaled sharply. I told you before, Tyler's just a friend. Last night got out of hand because you showed up acting like a stalker. That was her move. Flip the narrative, twist the knife. So, you expect me to believe you just talk at motels? In dresses you never wear for me? She shrugged. I didn't think you care. You don't notice anything about me anymore. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because something in my chest needed to crack open. I noticed everything, I said quietly. I noticed the makeup changes, the secretive phone, the late nights, the way you stopped touching me like I was your husband and started treating me like a placeholder. She blinked, caught off guard. For a second, humanity flickered in her eyes, then it died. You're being dramatic, she hissed. You always do this. You twist conversations until you're the victim. Victim. Interesting choice of word. Tell me the truth, I said. Not the edited version. Not the version where I'm paranoid. Just the truth. Are you seeing him? She tilted her head, as if she were deciding which version of reality she preferred. Then her lips curled into a smirk that could cut glass. I'm seeing someone who makes me feel something, she said. Someone who isn't a boring checklist in human form. There was no apology, no regret, not even guilt, just a knife coated in arrogance. My heart didn't break, it hardened. So you've been lying for months, I said. Madison scoffed. Please, I've been protecting your feelings. If you were more confident, if you weren't so clingy, I wouldn't have needed to. Needed to. In her world, betrayal was therapy. I stepped closer, close enough to see the mascara crusting at the corners of her eyes. You didn't cheat because I wasn't enough, I said. You cheated because you wanted more than one life. You want to be adored, worshipped, chased. And when that wasn't enough, you went hunting. She didn't deny it. She didn't blink. Maybe I did, she said, and maybe I don't regret it. The room fell silent, dense, and suffocating. The air didn't move. Neither did I. Then she delivered the finishing blow. Face it, Ethan. I outgrew you. A clean execution. Madison turned, walked toward the stairs, and tossed over her shoulder. Don't wait up next time. She disappeared into the bedroom. Her footsteps were the punctuation mark on the sentence she'd been writing for months. The confrontation was over, but something else had just begun. My anger wasn't burning anymore. It was crystallizing. The house felt foreign after that conversation, like someone had rearranged the walls while I wasn't looking. Every picture frame, every decorative pillow she insisted we buy, every scented candle suddenly looked like evidence. Evidence of a life I thought we were building together while she was busy renovating hers somewhere else. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the wood grain. My reflection shimmered faintly in the glossy surface. I didn't recognize the man looking back. His eyes were dull, his shoulders hunched, like he'd been carrying someone else's sins. Madison stomped around upstairs for a while, slamming drawers, opening closets, letting me know she was angry at me. Somehow, in her twisted logic, my existence had ruined her night at the motel. My presence had interrupted her fantasy. I turned her lie into something inconvenient. It wasn't until I heard the shower turn on that the quiet finally settled. That's when the emotions hit. Not like a wave, waves you can brace for. Like a collapse. Like the floor of my chest gave out, and everything I'd been holding up fell through me. My breath went shallow, my vision blurred, and my mind refused to stay still. Every word she'd said replayed itself in my skull, looping, getting sharper. You were never enough for me. I outgrew you. You're forcing me to lie. I clutched the edge of the table, knuckles white, teeth clenched so hard my jaw throbbed. I wasn't crying. Crying would have felt clean. This was something darker. This was a storm made of humiliation, disbelief, rage, and a grief so raw it tasted metallic. It's a strange thing, watching the person you love morph into a stranger without changing their face. I didn't lose Madison last night. I realized she was never mine. A phone buzzed on the counter. Mine. A text from my friend, Logan. You guys good? Mads posted something cryptic last night. Of course she did. Madison curated pain, like an influencer curated skincare routines. I typed back, we're not good, then deleted it. Logan would want explanations, sympathy, context. I had none to give. The shower stopped. A moment later, Madison floated downstairs wearing a robe, acting like she hadn't just detonated our marriage 2 hours ago. She grabbed an apple from the counter, took a bite, and chewed loudly, deliberately. Are you seriously still sulking? She asked. Sulking. My marriage is bleeding out on the table, and she sees a man sulking. Why aren't you at work? She added, like she hadn't rolled in at sunrise. I'm not exactly in the mood to design spreadsheets, I muttered. She rolled her eyes so hard it was almost athletic. You can't fall apart every time things don't go your way, Ethan. Be a man. There was the phrase every coward uses to justify cruelty. Something inside me steadied then, not out of peace, but out of focus. The fog didn't lift. It condensed. Tell me something, I said. When did it start? Was it months ago? Before or after our anniversary? She smirked, wiped her mouth with her thumb, and leaned against the counter like this was a casual morning chat. Why does it matter? She asked. The timeline won't change who we are, because that's what she believed. We were characters in her story, and she was allowed to rewrite scenes whenever it suited her. Did you ever love me? I asked. She laughed. Actually laughed, like I told a joke. Oh, Ethan, she breathed, shaking her head. You're so sentimental. Love gets boring. People grow. You didn't. There was again, her gospel. I was a plant she'd forgotten to water, then blamed for dying. You know what I think? She continued. I think you like the idea of us more than the reality of me. You made me into something domestic, predictable. I needed something more. She didn't say someone, but she didn't need to. Tyler was the more. The doorbell rang suddenly, slicing the tension in half. Madison froze, apple halfway to her mouth. She licked her lips, nervous, excited, guilty, but not afraid. I invited someone over, she said, voice suddenly gleaming with venom. We need a mediator. You're not rational right now. A mediator? Before I could respond, she swept past me and opened the door. Tyler stepped inside. The same man from the motel. The same smirk. The same arrogance. Only now he wasn't hiding. He looked right at me and said, Morning, Ethan. Ready to talk like adults. My pulse pounded so hard I thought I might black out. Madison smiled. Not kindly, not apologetically. Triumphantly. Like this was all going according to plan. In that moment, something clicked with terrifying clarity. She hadn't fallen into an affair. She was constructing a replacement. And she was doing it while I was still standing in the house. The emotional impact wasn't over. It had only evolved. From heartbreak to betrayal to something far more dangerous. Tyler walked in like he owned square footage in my marriage. His eyes scanned the room, lingering on the family photos. He smirked like he found the whole thing amusing. Madison stood beside him, barefoot, robe tied loosely, apple in hand, looking more like a woman hosting brunch than someone detonating a life. We need clarity, she announced. You're emotional, Ethan. Tyler's here because he's objective. Objective. The man she'd spent the night with at a motel was now the chosen referee of my marriage. If there was a universe where this made sense, I was on the guest list. Tyler clasped his hands like he'd watched a TED talk about conflict resolution. Look, man, nobody wants drama. This is just two people realizing they're not compatible anymore. The casual tone sliced deeper than any shout could have. So that's it, I asked. Years together, thrown away because you got bored? Madison sighed dramatically, as if I were a child refusing vegetables. It's not about being bored, Ethan. It's about evolving. You stayed exactly the same. I changed. Tyler understands me. He nodded, placing a hand on her shoulder like he was unveiling a new car model. Relationships fail when people grow apart. I stared at them. My wife and her what? Loa. Replacement? Upgrade? They stood united, speaking in cliches like a Pinterest board of betrayal. Something inside me broke, but it didn't collapse this time. It calcified. You want out? I said quietly. Fine. But you don't get to humiliate me in my own home. Madison scoffed. You already humiliated yourself. Showing up at the motel, acting like some jealous stalker. Tyler and I were having a work discussion. A work discussion? I repeated. Do you build a motel by the hour or by creative insight? Tyler's jaw tightened. My words finally struck something. Madison stepped in front of him like she was shielding a sacred artifact. See? This is what I mean. You can't control your emotions. You're right, I said. I'm done controlling them. She blinked, confused. That wasn't the script she'd rehearsed. I was supposed to beg, or break, or offer some pathetic compromise where she keeps both of us and calls it self-discovery. Instead, I was steady. It scared her. Ethan, she said slowly, voice losing its luster. Don't do anything stupid. Too late, I replied. Marrying you is my one stupid decision. Everything after this is correction. Tyler stepped closer. He's up, man. No need to get hostile. I turned to him. You think you're the protagonist here, I said. You're not. You're a temporary thrill in a story she keeps rewriting. I know her patterns. One day she'll outgrow you too. Madison bristled. You don't know anything about me. Oh, I know enough, I said. You chase attention like oxygen. You lie without blinking. You blame everyone else for the fallout of your choices. And you mistake recklessness for growth. Tyler opened his mouth, but I cut him off. And here's the difference between us. I built this life. You're trespassing in it. Madison shoved the apple core in the sink, refusing eye contact now. She hadn't expected resistance. She'd expected a collapse she could step over. You can't keep the house, she snapped. My name's on it too. Not for long, I said calmly. Her eyes widened. What are you talking about? While you were out last night, I lied, smoothly, terrifyingly. I called a lawyer. You want evolution? Let's evolve. Paperwork, signatures, assets divided. No more scenes, just consequences. Tyler's confidence faltered. He hadn't signed up for a woman with baggage. He wanted a thrill, not a court date. Madison hissed. You wouldn't dare. I stepped closer, voice low enough to make her lean back. You dared first. Silence crackled in the room like static. For the first time, she wasn't smirking. She was calculating and scared. Tyler cleared his throat. Maybe we should go. Give Ethan space. Madison hesitated, then grabbed her purse. This isn't over, she said. No, I replied. It's finally starting. They left without another word. The door shut, and the house exhaled. I stood there alone, adrenaline buzzing through my veins. My hands trembled, not with weakness, but with purpose. For weeks, I've been drowning in uncertainty, clinging to scraps of hope. Now, for the first time, I wasn't drowning. I was waking up. The decision had been made, not out of anger, not out of spite, but out of necessity. I wasn't going to save the marriage. I was going to bury it. And Madison would dig the grave with her own lies. This wasn't grief anymore. This was strategy. The house was quiet after they left, but not peaceful. It was the quiet of a battlefield after the first explosion. Smoke still hanging, shrapnel still warm. No one sure where the next blast would come from. I stood there for a long time, staring at the door. Part of me expected Madison to burst back in, scream something venomous, throw another accusation like a grenade. But nothing happened. Just silence, thick and oppressive. My hands shook, but not from heartbreak anymore. That phase had passed, burned out like a candle crushed beneath a boot. What I felt now was something sharper, something tactical, a cold awareness that everything I thought I knew was gone. But in its place was a blueprint. She wanted war? I'd give her hell. I grabbed my laptop, opened a blank document, and started listing facts, not memories, not emotions. Facts. Madison's work trips. The hike and phone secrecy. The smartwatch message. The motel. I wasn't documenting pain anymore. I was building a case. Halfway through typing, I stopped and laughed out loud. Not from humor, but from the absurdity of it all. I'd spent years thinking marriage was about trust, compromise, growth. Madison had turned it into a hostage negotiation where she held my sanity at gunpoint. Not anymore. My phone buzzed. For a moment, a stupid instinct flared. Hope, maybe, or curiosity. But when I looked, the sender wasn't Madison. It was Logan. Heard some rumors. Call me. Rumors. Of course. Madison didn't just cheat. She curated narratives. If she couldn't control my reaction, she could control the audience. I called him. What happened? He asked before I even said hello. She's seeing someone, I replied. The words didn't sting now. They were data. Logan whistled softly. Damn. Anyone we know? Tyler, I said. Co-worker. She called him a mediator this morning. A mediator, he repeated. For what? Your sanity. Apparently. There was a pause. Ethan, he said quietly. You need to get ahead of this. She's probably already spinning some story about how unhappy she was, how she tried to fix things, how you pushed her away. Already done, I said. I'm done playing defense. Logan let out a breath. Good. Don't let her drag you into her circus. We hung up, and the emptiness of the house settled again. But it wasn't suffocating me now. It was space. Mine. I grabbed a box and started collecting her things, not in anger, but in detachment. Perfume bottles, framed pictures, her favorite sweater draped across the couch like a lazy cat. Each item felt like a piece of propaganda from a regime that no longer existed. Halfway through, I stopped at her vanity table. Makeup scattered like confetti, notes with affirmations. I deserve passion. I am unstoppable. Don't settle. Inspirational to strangers. Weaponized in her hands. Underneath a pile of cosmetics, I found something else. A red hotel keycard. Room 23. My pulse didn't spike. It steadied. Proof didn't hurt anymore. It empowered. I slid the keycard into my pocket, closed the vanity drawer, and kept packing. A few hours later, the front door opened. Madison walked in like nothing happened, sunglasses on, shopping bag dangling from her wrist, humming some pop song like she hadn't spent the night redefining betrayal. She froze when she saw the boxes. What are you doing? She demanded. I didn't look up. Creating space. For what? She snapped, voice rising. For your ego? For truth. I corrected. Something you misplaced somewhere between your makeup bag and a motel room. Her cheeks flushed. Good. She wasn't bulletproof after all. You don't get to decide what happens here, she hissed. Oh, I do. I said, finally meeting her eyes. You made your move. Now it's my turn. She laughed. A hysterical, brittle sound. This is ridiculous. You're being dramatic over a mistake. A mistake. I let the word hang. Mistakes are accidents. You planned this. You nourished it. You decorated it. You dressed for it. She opened her mouth, but I kept going. And now you're shocked the mirror is finally reflecting you. Madison clenched her fists. You're pathetic. No, I said calmly. I was loyal. There's a difference. Silence. Not the submissive kind. The dangerous kind. What do you want? She whispered. Finally, a real question. I want clarity, I said. Not excuses. Not narratives. Facts. She swallowed. I don't owe you anything. You owe me the truth, I replied. Because once I have it, you lose your power. Her jaw clenched. She looked at the boxes again, and for the first time, she seemed afraid. Not of me. Of consequences. Where will I go? She asked, voice softer, but not remorseful, not regretful, just inconvenienced. With him, I asked. Or whoever comes next? Her lips parted. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The silence was the confession. My hand stopped shaking. My heart stopped breaking. The man who walked into that motel parking lot last night died there. This version, the one standing now, was born from betrayal. And he wasn't done. Not yet. Because every war has a turning point. And this was mine. I didn't ask Madison to leave that day. I didn't throw her clothes onto the lawn or scream until my voice cracked. That's what she expected. Chaos, explosions, emotional carnage she could point to and say, see? That's why I left. He's unstable. She wanted a spectacle to justify her betrayal. So I gave her the one response she never prepared for. Silence. Strategy. Control. Madison hovered near the kitchen island, hands trembling, not from guilt, but from losing the narrative. She stared at the boxes again, her gaze darting like a trapped animal searching for exits that weren't there. So what now? She asked, voice coated in ice. Are you kicking me out? No. You're going to choose to leave. Her eyes narrowed. I don't understand. Of course you don't, I said. You're used to manipulating endings, not facing them. She bristled, but I didn't stop. You want freedom? Attention? Reinvention? Fine. I'll give you all that. But I won't be the villain who drove you away. You'll walk out that door because you can't stand facing who you are when I stop cushioning your reflection. Madison laughed, sharp, performative. You're delusional if you think you can guilt trip me into anything. I'm not guilt tripping you, I said. I'm identifying patterns. Her lips parted, but no words came out. For once, I wasn't chasing her thoughts. She was chasing mine. She grabbed a water bottle and unscrewed the cap like she needed something to hold on to. Her knuckles whitened. You're acting like I don't have options, she snapped. Options aren't the same as outcomes, I replied. Ask Tyler. Her head jerked. What does that mean? I gave him something to think about, I said. He's a smart guy. He'll figure out soon enough what a woman like you really costs. Madison blinked, confusion briefly overtaking arrogance. You talked to him? He came here, remember? I shrugged. He thinks you're some prize. He'll learn faster than I did. Prizes don't call motel rooms mediation centers. She slammed the bottle onto the counter. You don't get to destroy my relationships. No, I said softly, leaning in. You destroyed them. I'm just the witness with receipts. Her breath hitched. That shook her, because somewhere under the vanity and venom, she knew I wasn't bluffing anymore. I walked past her, opened a drawer, and placed the motel keycard on the table like chess piece. Room 23. Red. Accusation carved into plastic. Madison froze. Her face drained. She stared at the card like it was a weapon. Where did you get that? She whispered. From your vanity. I answered. Right beside the perfume you wore last night. The one you save for men who aren't your husband. Her mouth opened. Maybe to lie, maybe to scream, but nothing came out. This isn't about what I know, I continued. It's about what I can prove. And trust me, Madison, truth always shows up, even when it thinks it's sneaking out the back door. She stepped back, shaking her head. You wouldn't. You're not that kind of person. You made me that kind of person, I replied. Silence stretched between us, thick enough to drown in. You think this makes you strong? She spat finally. It makes you pathetic. You're holding on to some fantasy where you get to win. No, I said. I'm stepping out of fantasy where we were ever on the same side. She flinched. That landed. Hard. A phone buzzed on the counter. Hers. She glanced at it, and instinct pulled her forward before she caught herself. Too late. I saw the name flash across the screen. Tyler. We should cool off. One text. One sentence. One unraveling. Madison's entire posture changed, spine collapsing, confidence leaking through invisible cracks. No, she whispered, tapping furiously at the screen. I didn't intervene. I didn't need to. The world she'd built on stolen attention was dissolving at the speed of reality. She turned on me, eyes blazing, fingers trembling. You did this. I raised my eyebrows. I didn't tell him to reconsider. I just gave him the information he was missing. You're destroying my life, she shrieked. I stepped closer, voice calm, razor-edged. No, Madison. I'm ending my participation in it. She went still, very still, the kind of stillness that comes right before something breaks. You'll regret this, she whispered. No, I said. Regret belongs to people who didn't see the truth soon enough. I see it now. Her face twisted, not with sadness, not with remorse, but with hatred born from losing control. Finally, she grabbed her purse, the motion frantic and sloppy, and stormed toward the door. She didn't take the boxes. She didn't take anything. She just fled. The door slammed so hard the walls shook. And then, silence. But this time, it wasn't suffocating. It was liberation. Not freedom from her. Freedom from who I was with her. The breaking point wasn't the motel. It wasn't Tyler. It wasn't even her confession. It was realizing I didn't need her version of me anymore. The man she left behind wasn't the man who remained. He was something new. And Madison was finally gone. But the story wasn't finished yet. Not until I closed it myself. The silence after Madison left wasn't empty. It was clean. It was the first breath after choking for months. The stillness after a storm where you finally realize the thunder isn't coming back. I stood in the doorway for a long time, staring at the place where she'd stood. Rage, lies, perfume, and entitlement swirling around her like a cloak she thought made her untouchable. Now she was gone, and the house felt bigger. Not lonely. Just mine. I walked through each room, noticing details I had ignored before. How many things were hers, not ours? How much space I gave her, not because she deserved it, but because I was afraid losing her meant losing identity. Turns out, losing her was the first time I found myself. I sat on the couch, phone in hand, scrolling through old messages like crime scene evidence. The affection had been sporadic long before Tyler. The lies had fingerprints months before I ever saw that motel. The signs weren't subtle. I just didn't want them to be real. Love makes you blind, but betrayal makes you see with x-ray vision. I opened a new message to her. Not to yell, not to beg, not to demand closure. Just this. I see now. That's enough. I didn't wait for a reply. I didn't need one. Madison thrived on reactions. Silence was a language she couldn't manipulate. Then I blocked her number. The sound of that final click was more satisfying than any revenge fantasy I'd entertained in the darkest hours. It wasn't petty. It wasn't cruel. It was a boundary. Next came Tyler. I didn't text him. I didn't warn him. I didn't explain anything. Men like him don't deserve guidance. They need experience. Madison would give him that lesson in installments. Every lie, every manipulated truth, every guilt-flipped accusation. He'd taste them one by one. She'd drain him until he wasn't exciting anymore. And then she'd evolve again. Parasites don't change. They migrate. I closed the laptop, took the keycard from my pocket, stared at the embossed number, 23. The room where my marriage died. I drove back to the motel that night. Not to confront anyone. Not to burn it down. Just to walk the battlefield sober. The neon vacancy sign flickered again, same as before. The air smelled like stale cigarettes, sweat, and cheap regret. Room 23 was dark now. No shadows, no laughter, no illusions. I leaned the keycard against the door and whispered, "Keep your ghosts." Then I walked away. No backward glance. No second thoughts. Months passed. People talk. Some said Madison moved to another city with some new guy, different job, different friends, same story. Others said Tyler tried to make it work, then disappeared from her orbit when he realized feeling alive with her mint barely surviving. Rumors said she tried to contact me once. She never got through. By then, I wasn't the man who waited outside a motel hoping for proof. I was the man who learned truths the hard way. Loyalty doesn't cure disloyalty. Attention isn't affection. Passion without respect is poison. Love given to the wrong person turns you into a mirror they smash before blaming the glass. I rebuilt, not fast, not perfectly, but honestly. I started therapy, not because I was broken, but because I wanted to make sure I never mistook chaos for connection again. I traveled. I read. I rediscovered the parts of myself I'd muted so she could feel louder. And then one morning, months later, I woke up and realized Madison wasn't my story anymore. She was just a plot twist that taught me how to write new chapters. Conclusion, what I learned. If you ever find yourself standing where I stood, heart sinking, truth cracking open your ribs, remember this. Betrayal isn't the end. It's the knife that carves you free. Don't waste time trying to fix someone who gains power from your confusion. Don't argue with a person who rewrites reality to avoid accountability. Don't cling to someone who treats your loyalty like a leash. Leave before you lose the parts of you that existed long before they arrived. Because the worst thing isn't being cheated on. The worst thing is forgetting who you were before the lie. Madison didn't ruin me. She revealed me. And sometimes, the most brutal endings are the ones that save your life.